All right.
All right, I gotta call him out. So.
No problem.
Brown is all the way preoccupied over there, so you're good for now. Red, a little more
All right, hey, morning everyone. We are about to take a walk with our flamingos here. We'll have Kyle Waits kind of talk about what's going to happen. So thanks for joining us. Leave any questions or comments below and we'll see if we can get them answered here by a keeper. Ryan, we'll get an exact number for you once Kyle joins us over here.
We call this little program the Flaw.
These are 10-month-old flamingo chicks. We got them as eggs from the San Diego Safari Park, and we hand-reared them here. And they've been walking since about the second week that they were hatched. So we've been working on this for quite a long time with them, and we do this daily at 9:15 to get them their exercise, as well as to work on getting their training up to par so we can offer this experience to guests.
We got a question asking why they are not pink yet.
So they aren't pink because they're 10 months old. So greater flamingos actually will only get their pink at about 3 years old. So they still have a little while to go to get that pink, and they do get that pink from their diet. So there's a protein in the diet, or actually a pigment called beta carotene, that they will actually eat and metabolize and then deposit that into their feathers as color. They'll also change their leg color into pink and their beak color into pink. And again, those still are a gradual process, so it takes about 3 years for them to get that color.
Kyle, how big is the flock? Approximate numbers.
The total flock that we have here is 39 greater flamingos. Our chicks number at 11, and then we also received 7 other birds from the San Diego Safari Park that are juveniles. They're about 1.5 years to about 2 years old.
And we had a question here. There's a debate on if flamingos can fly. If you could kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yes, flamingos do fly, and actually a lot of flamingos migrate. Greater flamingos in particular live most of their time in Central Africa, and then they'll migrate up to Europe and India. So flamingos are very good at flying. Our flamingos here cannot fly, and that is because of a situation when they're very young. We essentially eliminate their ability to fly so that we can keep them in an open exhibit so that guests can interact with them and not worry about them flying off and ending up somewhere else in Phoenix that we don't want.
How long does it take for their eggs to hatch?
With these guys, their eggs are incubate for about 28 to 30 days before they hatch, and both the parents participate in incubating the eggs and the rearing of the chicks as well.
And then how old are these flamingo chicks?
These guys are 10 months old here.
They worked out real well. I don't know.
And we have 10 of our 11 out on the walk today.
You can see how all the birds are individually banned. They have individual colors and numbers. The numbers on the legs.
The other thing about greater flamingos too is that they are the palest species of flamingo. They're the tallest, as their name implies, greater, but they're also the palest. So when most people think of flamingos, they usually think of the American or the Caribbean species of flamingo that is very vibrantly orangish pink almost. But these guys are extremely pale, so even in the adults, sometimes I hear people asking why they aren't as pink and thinking that they don't get enough carotene in their diet, but it's just the way that the species metabolizes the carotene.
You're welcome. If anyone has any questions, just leave a comment and we'll have Kyle, who's awesome, we'll do our best to answer them. Or even a shout out.
Any questions, let Kyle Waits know.
And white is in the back here.
How tall do they become?
They actually get up to about 5 feet tall. The females are almost always a little bit shorter than the males. They range in about 4 to 4.5 feet tall, whereas the males get around 4.5 to 5 feet tall. There is a little bit of overlap, so you can't tell a flamingo usually just by looking at it whether it's a male or female. But if you have a really tall male and a really short female, it's pretty obvious. And what we do here at the Phoenix Zoo is we actually will sex our flamingos when they're very young, with a blood test. So we'll send that off to a lab and we'll get their sex back. And what we'll do is we'll take that information and use it to ban the flamingo on a certain leg. We ban the flamingos on the right leg if they're a male and the left leg if they're a female. And then each bird, as you can kind of probably see, has a color band. And each one of those color bands coordinates also with the individual. So we have a couple overlapping identifiers so that if they lose a band or something like that, we still can tell the individual, because the flamingos, they really look very similar to each other. You can't really look at them and tell which individual is which.
Shout out to Brandon and Ben. I think Amanda left that. Hey guys, thanks for watching. How long is a typical lifespan for a flamingo?
Flamingos are actually really long-lived. In captivity, they live in the range of about 50 to 60 years on average. And that is mainly because they have a lot less stress in captivity. In the wild, it's probably more around 20 to 30 years, and that's because of obviously the threat of predators and the stress that they take on in living in the wild. But these guys, actually the oldest living flamingo, I believe, was in Australia, and he was around 85. So they get pretty old. It's pretty amazing.
What are some of their names?
Some of our names of our chicks are Goose, which is our green banded bird, Maverick, which is a blue banded bird, Kirby, which is the pink banded bird, Ella Rose, which is named after my curator's daughter, actually, is the orange banded bird, and then my manager's daughter and son were named after, or the two of our flamingos were named after them, Kieran and Brian, which are white and black banded flamingos.
Ryan, the zoo's about 125 acres. That's roughly, give or take there. I know that was a question. Let's see.
We got a question asking if this species, if they're related, will they still reproduce together, or should they have to be independent?
That is kind of dependent on the individuals, because flamingos don't actually mate for life like a lot of other bird species do. They actually will choose different mates every year and repair. So theoretically, they could actually mate with someone that about a month old, so we've been working on that for quite a while, and they're just very used to it, so they respond very, very well to it.
Hey Noah, thanks for watching. We did have a question if any of the other animals take an interest to them on the walk, or vice versa, or how does that work?
That's a great question. We were thinking that we would have some issues when we first started doing this walk with things like the tigers or the orangs if they saw us, but really we haven't had any issues in the 10 months that we've been doing these walks around the lake. They're pretty used to everything that happens around them, and then a lot of the animals, we actually pass by the exhibits too quickly for them to really react. So it works out really well.
McKenna and Harrison, thanks for watching, guys.
If you guys have any other questions, let us know.
So these guys are one of the 6 species of flamingos in the world. There's 2 in Africa, the greater and lesser flamingos. One in the Caribbean region, which is the American flamingo that I mentioned earlier. And then we have another species here, the Chilean flamingo. And then there are 2 other species that occur in South America, like the Chilean flamingo. Those are the Andean flamingo and the James's flamingo. And those 2 species are really cool because they actually inhabit high altitude areas, and they're very specialized in living in harsh environments, which many people wouldn't think would be the case with flamingos since they are very fragile looking.
Why do they stand on one leg?
That is a great question.
Hey
There's
Forrest,
actually been some research
hey
that's
Pearl,
been done,
Anthony, thanks for watching.
To show that they use less energy when they stand on one leg. So it's a lot of it is just saving energy and energy expenditure, but also when they tuck that leg up, when it's cold, they can keep themselves warm. So they'll switch off on the legs to keep one leg warm and then warm up the other one. So they can really tuck it into their feathers where they're producing a lot of warmth.
I think there was a question about other animals that are walked around the zoo. There's a lot of enrichment that is done kind of behind the scenes. So some of our farm animals are walked around, and there's all kinds of stuff that is done. But this is definitely a unique experience walking through the zoo for our flamingos.
And so when we first got these guys as eggs, our great bird team here actually hand reared these guys. So they all ranged in hatching from 10 days, from the earliest hatch to the latest hatch. And our team pulled together. We were pulling about 14-hour days to get these guys raised and feeding about 80 or so feeds after the first week when they had all hatched. So, and that's per day. So it's a lot of work to hand rear, but obviously the work paid off really, really well.
Ben and Mia, thanks for watching. There we go. Kyle, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very much appreciated.
Thank you guys for joining us.
You got it. Stay tuned for more, and we'll catch up with you guys later. All right, Kyle, what do we have here? Breakfast with the flamingos. Can you talk to us about what's happening?
So right now they're getting their breakfast, as you said. So what we feed them is actually a pelleted diet that's manufactured by an exotic animal nutrition company, and it's made specifically for flamingos. It includes everything that they really need to be nutritionally sound and produce those great colors that flamingos are known for. So what you're seeing here is our adult flamingos as compared to our chicks that you saw before. And these guys are obviously a little bit more pink. You can see the legs are a lot more pink and the bills are a lot more pink as well. And that again comes from their diet that we feed them. And we have Aaron here, our great AAR keeper, doing some feeding, getting them their breakfast. And before we actually started doing the work with walking the chicks around, these adults didn't really want to have much to do with us. They would keep really far away. But ever since we started doing the walk and they saw that we were feeding the flamingos in here after the chicks, after the walk, they saw that, hey, it's okay to come up close to where the adults are. Brown. Curious guy. So now we actually have some adults that regularly feed out of the cups, and that's a great addition to our experience, because usually we would only have the chicks, but it's really a unique view to have those flamingos, those adult flamingos up in your face like that. A lot of these calls you're hearing, those are breeding calls, so they will do those calls and a lot of bickering during the breeding season, which we're in the heart of right now. Unfortunately, we haven't had any success breeding the flamingos here, the greater flamingos at least. But since we got the additional numbers of flamingos, the chicks that we got and the juveniles we got from the San Diego Safari Park, that upped our numbers to a number where we really think we can breed them well, because flamingos really have to have numbers to feel safe enough to breed and feel comfortable enough to breed. And one thing I always hear is that always is brought up is the knees of the flamingos. They bend backwards, but that's actually not the case. What you see here is actually their ankle. Their knee is further up in their body, so they really just have a very elongated foot. And they essentially are standing on what you would think of as your tippy toes.
We had a question earlier about kind of the social hierarchy and how that works with flamingos. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's not a ton of social hierarchy. There isn't one top dog, essentially. They're very flock-oriented, so it is a very very big flock mentality. So a lot of it is building the synchronicity with the flock, which they will call back and forth and do certain behaviors to replicate each other, and they build that synchronicity to feel comfortable enough to get into the breeding mode. So again, there's no real top dog. You will see some of the taller flamingos be a little bit more aggressive with pushing birds out of what they feel is their immediate territory, but that's about the extent of it. They don't really lead the flock or get the first feed or anything like that. So it's very flock oriented. In the wild, flamingos will eat shrimp, brine shrimp in particular, which people commonly think, and then also blue-green algae, because they are filter feeders. So they use the the little ridges on the sides of their bill and the little hairs that come out of their tongue, almost like baleen on a whale to filter out food. So you'll see them sometimes in some really mucky water. You can see our adults back here. It just seems really disgusting to us. But what they're doing is they're going through and filtering all the nasty water and getting any little good nutrients that are in there that we can't really see.
We watch them every morning, and when we are open, you can join us for a Backstage Adventure, which allows you to walk with the flock and then come on in and feed some of the flamingos.
And when you see them eat the pellets, if you see how wide their bill is open, that's about how wide flamingos can open their bill. They really can't open their mouth too much. And again, that's attributed to them being a filter feeder, so they don't really need to open their mouth really that wide.
If you guys have any other questions, let us know in the comments.
They'll turn pink at about 2 to 3 years of age. They're 10 months old now, so we've got about a year and a half, 2 years for most of them to get that full color. You'll see the pink on the legs starting to really come in. What number is the band on this one? All be pink.
25?
And once they hit that, they'll maintain it. One way to the
How long do they live?
Flamingos live in captivity about 50 to 70 years, depending on obviously the species and the environment that they're kept in. But they're quite long-lived. A lot of people don't really, it baffles a lot of people when I tell them that.
Is there an evolutionary reason they don't get pink for 3 years?
A lot of that is probably attributed, I'm not an expert, but it's probably attributed to predation. So a lot of that is keeping those very vibrant pink colors hidden away until they can really avoid predators. And it also is in relation to when they become mature to produce eggs. So they don't really produce eggs until about 2.5 to 3 years, which is, again, it correlates when they get that vibrant pink, which is a selection that they use to pick mates and things like that. So it is a big correlation in that sense.
Why is the tip of their beak black?
That is a good question. I believe that's just an individual trait with the different species of flamingos. They vary between how much black they have on their bill, and it's just something that this species has. I don't think there's any real specific reason why it is black.
If they had babies, would they stay with us or go somewhere else?
They would probably stay with us for at least the first couple years of life, and then depending on recommendations, because we actually work with what's called the Species Survival Program, which is a part of the AZA, and they manage the captive populations of different species. And flamingos is one of the species that's managed by that, so we'll get recommendations based on who the parents of the species or of that individual bird was and who they're related to in the grand population to make recommendations for breeding and sending out. And that's actually why we received the 11 chicks and the 7 adult juvenile birds that we got from the San Diego Safari Park.
What are their predators in the wild?
In the wild, it's mostly, for this species in particular, it's mostly eagles and other raptors like that. Because these guys live very far out in the middle of brown lakes, so there's not a lot of water predators or land predators because the lakes that they live in are just usually too harsh for a lot of life to thrive in. So they really only have to worry about aerial predators. And again, that's when that big group dynamic comes in and that protection and the flock comes into play because they like to spend a lot of time together, and that's more eyes looking out for predators and things like that. In the wild, these guys will breed in the tens to hundreds of thousands of pairs of birds. So there are a lot of birds out there that are breeding when these guys breed in the wild.
How big and what color are their eggs?
Their eggs are about the size of a goose egg. It's kind of about that size right there, and they're a chalky white. And the reason I say chalky is actually they kind of release a little bit of like a powdery when you touch them, so you get a little bit of white on your hands, and it is very chalky-like. And so what will happen is they'll lay their egg actually on a little mud nest that they build. They'll build almost a mud volcano up to about a foot and a half tall. And the reason they build it so tall is that when they breed in the wild, they're in a very muddy area, and they breed during the rainy season. So it's protection against the water level rising and actually overflowing the egg on the nest. And then the pairs will switch off between the males and the females and incubate, as we said, for about 28 to 30 days until they hatch the chick. And then a unique thing about flamingos is they produce something called crop milk. and that's very unique. It's actually similar in content to mammalian milk, and they will actually produce it in their crop from the food that they've digested and then feed that to the chick. And one thing, the chicks hatch as a downy white bird, and what happens is they will feed the chicks, and that crop milk is a very vibrant pink because of, again, all the color that they digest. And so it'll be regurgitated to the chicks, and the chicks will actually get a lot of that red color because it's not a very clean process. They're very messy when they're eating. And so a lot of the times it'll look almost like they're a bloody mess because they've been given that orange, that very vibrant pink color from the crop milk, and it just gets all over their feathers, and it almost looks very ugly, but it's perfectly normal.
Are they migratory birds?
Yes. This
Bailey,
species in
thanks for
particular
watching.
is migratory. They actually breed in Central to Northern Africa and will migrate up to Europe and to India during the non-breeding season. So they are very migratory. Actually, my favorite is one of the chicks, Brown, and that's because when he was younger, he had a very big attachment to me. It's unfortunately not as great as it was, but he still has very close to my heart, that's for sure. But they all are great individually, that's for sure. They have a lot of personality.
How old is the oldest flamingo?
The oldest flamingo here is actually one of our Chilean flamingos, and I don't want to misquote, but I believe they are in she is in her 50s.
Wow.
I'm not sure the exact age, I have to double check. But
Hi, Luke.
Yep, our
Thanks for
Chilean
watching.
flamingo. This flock, the greater flamingo flock, is actually a pretty young flock. Our oldest bird here is only about 20 years old. And as I said, the flamingos live in captivity 50 to 70 years. So these guys are pretty young in terms of the flock size.
All right, you guys, thanks for watching. More videos to follow.